Hello again, and welcome to this portion dedicated to scripting with Python. And my name is Mohanad Hussain. And I'm going to take you through a series of very practical examples on how to get introduced to doing scripting with Python. So let's start with defining what does scripting actually mean? Well, it's a very powerful, efficient way to automate tasks. Think about tasks where you have to do a lot of repetition. You've got like an Excel sheet with a lot of information that you want to be able to run through, maybe perform some calculations or perform some lookup or something along those lines. And I know you can do some of this in Excel, but you're limited to what you can do. Scripting allows you to take this to the next level. Um, Importing, exporting data is often done with scripting. Taking backups is another one. Interfaces that plug two applications together are often done with scripting. There's a lot more. Reality is, scripting is in a lot of parts of our lives. We just don't know it. So I'm hoping that you can learn how to do some scripting and be able to automate a lot of things in your life. Another practical example in a hospital setting is what if you want to pull reports for a cohort of imaging exams? Maybe you need to go and actually identify the cohort of exams, and then you need to be able to go pull these reports out of the system, maybe a database or maybe something along those lines. But you get the picture. It's somewhat tedious and requires some work. So again, scripting is perfect for the job. Now, scripting is even more fun when it's combined with SQL. And I'm hoping you are able to do my other portion within this learning lab on SQL because the two together can expand your horizons and be able to allow you to do a lot more. Um, I hear this a lot. Once you've learned how to write scripts and started using them, you'll actually wonder how you got by previously without being able to script. It's a blessing. Now, why did I choose Python? You'll probably hear people who talk about scripting talk about different technologies. Windows people will probably use batch scripting or PowerShell. Linux people used to like to use Bash, not to be confused with Batch. And there are so many more in between. JavaScript is another popular example. Now, I chose Python for specific reasons. One, it's cross-platform compatibility. I like it because it runs on Windows, Linux, Mac without any modifications. So for example, let's say you want to develop the script on your Windows laptop, but then we want to be able to take that and run it on a Linux server, that will work. Or you're a Mac user and your colleagues are Windows users, you can send your scripts back and forth and it will work. So I like that about them. I also find them extremely easy to read and write. So that's sometimes called the syntax. And of course, there's a really strong community behind it. And really, the community comes down to two parts here. Number one, anytime you have a problem, something you're trying to find, you can very easily Google for it, and you'll find an answer that you pretty much can copy and paste and modify slightly to make it work for what you need. And the other one is if you want to get deep into it, it also has decent support for medical imaging technologies such as DICOM. Now, these extensions that I talked about are done through what is called a package system. Think of it as kind of like Lego blocks. You're basically, hey, I know I need to be able to manipulate DICOM or read DICOM. So I bring that Lego block and I put it into my structure, and that enables me to do that one thing. So that's the nice thing about Python, as well as other languages. You can bring all these things. So it goes beyond your traditional Bash script or batch script, being able to do things like that. Things are a lot more specialized. Also, another nice thing about Python is that all the cool folks who are doing AI and machine learning use Python. So by slowly learning Python, you might actually have a little segue into those applications as well. Maybe you're not going to write an AI algorithm on day one, but who knows, maybe down the line. So today we're going to keep it really simple. What I'm going to use is we're going to use something called PyCharm as the IDE. IDE is basically stands for Integration Development Environment, which doesn't mean a whole lot other than the fact that it's a nice GUI for you to be able to type Python code into, be able to execute it and read the code and validate it all within this one application. Do you have to have it? No. You can go and write Python code in pretty much any code editor, and then you'll be able to run it via other means. But I like PyCharm because A, it's free to use, and it makes it extremely easy to get started with Python. It runs on Windows, Mac, Linux, so again, cross-platform. And then I'm going to show you very quickly how to install it and use it. I'm not actually going to show you the installation live, but I'll just give you a couple of tips. We're going to write super simple scripts today to do 6 basic tasks that hopefully illustrate how you can get started with scripting. So we're going to do a hello world example, and I'll explain more what that means if you don't know what hello world means. Lists, looping, conditions. We're going to read a CSV file, so basically like an Excel spreadsheet. We're going to interact with native system commands, because what if you want to run a backup or something using existing system command? And then we're going to interact with SQL data. So again, being able to run against the database. And last but not least, I find a lot of people are scared of regular expressions. And I don't want anybody to be scared of regular expressions. They're great things and they make sense if you just take the time to understand them and try them out. So we're going to try that today just to break that barrier of fear. So how do you install PyCharm? You basically go to their website. You're going to go and download what they call the Community Edition. It's basically the free version. The first time it starts up, it's going to create a brand new project. And I want you to go with all the default settings. So don't change the settings. You can change the project name if you want, but don't change the other settings. The first time you do this, it will take a while to initialize, but it's only the first time. So be patient, please. After that, it will be all good. And you're basically all set now to start using it. And you'll be able to take my examples I show you today and run them pretty much as is. So there are multiple ways you can run. I'm going to list them here. I'm not actually going to read them. If you'd like, you can pause and read them in more detail. You'll see me doing one way, but you're welcome to choose any way you prefer yourself. So we'll start with hello world. So what's the deal with this hello world? What does that actually mean? In development community, basically, it's when you try something new and you want to try the absolute basic use case to just see that, hey, I can actually make it work. As I say in my slides, hey, look, Ma, that kind of moment of, hey, wow, it works. That's basically what it is. So literally, we're basically going to go in and create a file, a Python file, and we're just going to replace it with that one-liner you see on my screen. It says print hello world in these parentheses and brackets. Now, you see the results here, but this wouldn't be a fun presentation if I don't actually show you live. So here's my hello world example. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to run it over here. So I'm going to say Python. So I'm going to hit enter. I apologize, it's not very readable on the screen, but yeah, you see there, hello world just came back. So we know it works. So congratulations, you ran your first Python script. Now, let's take it one step up. Let's say, as you can see here in my first line, I have a list of things. So I've made a list of my favorite fruits. Orange, apple, grapes, banana, and strawberry. These are my favorite fruits. And let's say I want to do a variety of things with this list. So maybe the first thing I want to do is I want to run through the list and print them out. Tell the world that these are my favorite fruits. That's what you see here. So I'm saying for is a form of going through a list of something. So for X and fruits. So that basically means every time we get a fruit, it's going to be assigned to a variable named X. And then that's what I'm printing. I'm printing X. So these two lines here, basically, I expect are going to give me the following lines: orange, apple, grapes, banana, strawberry, each on their own line. So that's a loop, okay? But I can also use a list to test things, whether they're real or not. So the next line here illustrates conditions. If apple is in fruits, then I'm going to print, hey, apple is a fruit. It's awesome. Okay, but the opposite is also true. So you notice I can say if cucumber not in fruits, then it's going to print cucumber is not a fruit. Whoa, right? Let's try it out together just to see that it actually works. Okay, so I'm going to say Python looping. Indeed, as expected, as you can see right here, it printed the list of fruits: orange, apple, grapes, banana, strawberry. It said apple is a fruit, cucumber is not a fruit. So it works. And congratulations, you just learned how to loop, do conditions in Python. Now, what happens if you want to read a list from a file because it's a really long list? Okay, so CSV stands for comma separated vertices. It's a popular form of exchanging data. It's kind of like an Excel sheet, but not specifically using Microsoft's format. Now, if you wanted to read an actual Excel sheet in Microsoft proprietary format, that's also doable in Python. You'd use a different package for it. But for now, to keep it simple, we're just going to stick with CSV. So you notice the first part I'm saying is import CSV. So remember when we talked about those Lego blocks you can bring in to help you with specific things? Well, that's basically what I'm saying. So I'm saying bring me the CSV package so I can read and manipulate CSV. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to point it at this file called fruits.csv. And in a minute, I'll show you what that file has. So I'm asking it to open the file, and then I'm asking the CSV to read it for me. Okay. And that's what this is. So now this is now becomes what is called in Python an iterable variable. It's not actually going to read all that file right into memory. What it will do is it will present itself as a list, but every time you ask for the next thing in that list, it will read that line on demand. And that's basically what I'm doing. So I'm saying for row in reader. So I'm looping through reading row by row, and then I'm printing the contents of the row. Now, let me show you what this spreadsheet looks like, just so it's no surprise. So it's basically listing every fruit along with its color. So orange is orange, apple is red, banana is yellow. So if I go back, you notice what I'm doing is I'm saying the color of row 0, so that's the first column, it always starts counting at 0. It does not start counting at 1. So this would be the fruit name, and then row 1 is the fruit color. And as you can see the output here, the color of orange is orange. The color of apple is red. The color of banana is yellow. Just as simple as that. Now, I'm not actually going to run this one because it's pretty simple. It's not adding a whole lot. So what happens if you want to run a system command? So there is a package for it. As you can see at the top of my screen, I'm saying import OS. So OS is operating system. So it's a package that allows you to interact with things that are at the operating system level. And one of those examples is running a command. So in this case, I'm running os.system uptime. This is the name of the command. Now, I'm on a Linux machine. Uptime is a geeky command that basically tells you how long your machine has been running. So that's what the output you see here below. It says that my machine has been up for 2 days now. There's one user and some information about performance. In real life, you can use this to combine other things. So for example, you want to copy files from one spot to the other, you can say copy, and then you can provide the names. If I go back to my previous slide, here you see how I'm doing string concatenation. So I'm plugging variables into strings. Now, for the record, there are multiple ways you can embed variables in a string in Python. Some of them are actually really cool. I'm using the most basic one here, the most obvious ones, but there are other ones, and I encourage you to explore the other ones because some of them can be really concise and easier for writing. But yeah, this is basically how you run a system command. So you can use this to delete files, you can use this to copy files, you can use this to take backups, you can use this to do a whole lot of things. Now, it's not to say that Python itself can't copy files for you, but if you prefer to do it through the operating system for one reason or another, that's an option. Now, what if we take this to the next level and we go into SQL statements? Okay, so let's try this. This is a nice one. Now, as you would have guessed, we actually need yet another Lego block here to be able to work with the database. In my case, I'm just going to go with a simple example of using a MySQL database. So the right package for this isn't something that ships out of the box. So if I go to my previous example here, like you saw me importing OS and importing CSV, these packages are so common, they just ship with the language out of the box, just for your convenience, right? It's kind of like when you buy a car, it comes with 4 wheels. You don't need to ask about it, right? But SQL packages don't. So you actually have to go and install them, okay? You can do that right within PyCharm. So that's one of the reasons why I like PyCharm. It's one spot to do everything. You don't have to keep going back and forth to other applications. So in my case, I am connecting to MySQL. So I'm saying pip install MySQL connector Python. Pip is the name of the package manager in Python. I'm telling it to install something, and I'm giving it the package name. So in your case, maybe you want to connect to Oracle. So then you would say something like pip install Oracle. Now, don't quote me on the actual package name. It's probably different, but it's just as an example. Okay. So you can Google for whatever package that you need, and then you'd be able to install it that way. Say you decide you want to manipulate DICOM files. So the DICOM package in Python is called PyDICOM. So the command would be pip install PyDICOM, and that will bring you the DICOM package in Python. So now that I have that, here's what I'm going to do. Now, I apologize, the code looks a little scary here because there's more nuances, but try and follow along with me. So the first thing I'm doing is, again, I'm bringing that package. So the previous spot, the installation, I pulled that package from the cloud, brought it to my computer so I can use it. Now, in my code, I'm telling it that I want to use this block. So I'm saying import mysql.connector. Second line, I'm requesting a new connection to MySQL. And as you can see, I'm providing the host. In my case, it's the local host. It's my own machine, username, password, and the name of the database that I'm connecting to. Once I'm connected to the database, I have to create a cursor. Now, this is a technicality, so I'm not going to bother explaining why. Let's just accept it as a fact of life. So you take a cursor, and now with the cursor is what allows you to actually perform operations like running a SQL statement, reading those results, so on and so forth. So in this case, what I've done is I've created a table in my database that looks exactly like the CSV sheet. So it's basically a fruit and its color. And what I'm saying is select fruit and color from the fruits table. Okay. Now, I went with fruits because it's extremely simple example to comprehend. In real life, you might be trying to select something from the study table. So then you'll want to ask for accession number, study description, and who knows what else. But that's just illustrating the point. So this line executes the query and then gets the results back. Now, for you to read those results, what I'm doing here is I'm fetching all these results. I'm reading all of them at once. Now, in this case, I know these results are, I've got 3 in the database, so they're pretty easy to handle. So I can afford to pull them up all at once and read them into the memory. If I couldn't, instead of fetch all, I could say fetch 1, and then I fetch 1 at a time, and I read and read. So read, fetch, read, fetch, so on and so forth. Anyway, so this brings them back as one list, and then I can iterate through the list, and I'm doing the same thing I did in the CSV example of I'm just simply printing those colors. So the color of this fruit is so on and so forth. And here's what you can see. The color of orange is orange, the color of apple is red, color of banana is yellow. All right, the last bit here. So regular expressions. So let's start with what are regular expressions for those of you who don't know. Regular expressions are basically a way of expressing patterns of text, okay? We humans find this pretty easy to do because we can be wired that way, but programming language is different. So let's say you're at an institution where you have multiple hospitals, and hospital A will always prefix their accession numbers with A. So the format for the accession number is A followed by 8 characters. And hospital B has eight characters followed by the letter B. How do you easily detect these two? Okay. What I'm doing, though, is I'm taking it one notch just to illustrate the power of regular expressions. So in this example, first thing I do is I import the RE package, regular expression package. Now, it ships with the language, so it's always there. You don't need to install it. Excuse me. And then what I'm doing is I'm compiling a regular expression. Now, this regular expression may look like it's mumbo jumbo, but I'm going to walk you through it and it will make so much sense. I am basically just looking to detect emails to see if an email is valid or not. Now, this is an extremely simplistic example, so I wouldn't recommend you actually take this and use it, but nonetheless, it illustrates the point. So let's dissect this. Let's start with these square brackets. So what I'm saying here in these square brackets is I'm saying I'm going to define a class of characters. Class meaning a range in this case. So there are multiple ranges I'm defining. A dash Z means A to Z. So that's all the letters in the alphabet, A, B, C, D, all the way down to Z. But this is lowercase. So the next bit is defining it for uppercase, so A to Z. Now, you might be wondering, well, can't I just tell it to be case insensitive? Yes, you can. But I just wanted to demonstrate this because this is one of the popular gotchas for brand new people, is to either remember to say that it's case insensitive using a flag, or you have to make sure you remember to do this. So A to Z, lowercase, A to Z, uppercase, and then the numbers 0 to 9, okay? So these square brackets will match basically any alphabet letter and any number, just as simple as that. So then I follow that by star. And star in this case means any number of occurrences. So any number of letters and characters. And then I say at. Now in this case, the at is literal. So it's literally looking for at. Nothing magical here, no substitution, no intelligence. And then I follow by using the same regular expression I showed you a minute ago, just to say that it's a number of characters and numbers in succession, so one or more. Now, you notice I have slash, slash, dot. Dot has a special meaning in regular expressions. So when in this case, I'm actually looking for the literal dot rather than that special meaning. That's why I'm putting slash, slash. So that's the way I escape it, to tell it I'm literally looking for a dot. And then the same regular expressions. So it's basically saying that there's something at, something dot, something else, which is com, org, etc., etc. So what I usually do in regular expressions is I usually compile them, which basically puts them in an efficient format so they can be evaluated very easily. You don't have to do the expensive computation every time. And then you can run strings against them to see if they match or they don't. So very simple here. I've got the first one saying, is example@sim.org a valid email? And if it is, it's going to print this. It says it's a valid email. But if it's just sim.org without an at and something before the at, then I expect this to be not a good regular expression, which is why I said, if not, print it's not a valid email. So you see, it takes a little bit of time to craft regular expressions, but once you do, they're so powerful. You can do so much with them. It's quite amazing. Now, as you can see, the result of the execution here is no surprise. You've got a example at sim.org is a valid email, and sim.org is not a valid email. So congratulations, you just learned 6 super useful things to do in Python. I'd love for you to go and try and write some scripts that will make your life easier. So here's where you go beyond this learning lab. Again, there's an easy to follow tutorial that you can go on w3schools.com for Python. Google, as I said before, is your friend. If you're trying to find something how to do in Python, you can Google it. How do I do this in Python? Most likely you're going to find a bit of code that you can copy, paste, customize to your needs. Don't forget, there are a ton of open source examples on sites like GitHub. Like, these are not just bits of code, these are comprehensive examples that show you how to accomplish something rather big. And of course, there are the Q&A examples on websites like stackoverflow.com. So somebody asks a question and people answer him with different ways of doing things. And this is it. So again, welcome to the wonderful world of Python. I hope you found this useful. I'm happy to answer any questions in the live Q&A session as well as office hours. Have a good one.